Hi, David.
You're right.
Yeah, I'm doing good. We have this is 2026 and
Yes.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
And
everybody.
to start off the new year, there is a
Dry January?
what should we call it? No dry January here. Um, Sort of a counter to dry January. We're gonna be celebrating Canadian Whiskey Week. Hey,
Hey!
there we
That
go.
was our second ever episode, was on Canadian Whiskey
Yeah,
Week. And I
yeah.
think it was like this, a bonus episode.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Ooh. Yes. Yeah. So our friend and colleague Reese Sims has been pulling this together now and promoting it. So we thought we'd give a little time here to talk about Canadian whiskey.
Yeah, we went into some of the details and what you can't do and what you can do in episode 2. That was in
Yeah.
January last year. So go back and have a look at that for those
Yeah.
sorts of details. It's CanadianWhiskeyWeek.com. And of course, that
Oh.
whiskey has no E. So if you want
Yes.
to find
No
out
E.
more, it's CanadianWhiskeyWeek.com. No E in the whiskey. And the hashtag and the socials is at CAD, CAD, Whiskey Week. At CAD Whiskey Week. And I cannot stress this enough. There is no E in the whiskey.
Yes, they don't use that pesky American/Irish spelling.
There's loads of different stuff going on, so check out the
Yeah.
website. Different places are getting involved in lots of different ways. There's talks and there's tastings and stuff. There's stuff that's going to be in person. There's stuff that's online. So wherever you are, there's something for you. So we thought we would have a little taste of some whiskey. What have we got? And I
Yeah.
think as we discussed before, not a lot that you can get in the UK, but as a gift from our good friend,
Yeah.
I have this, which is Macaloni's.
Hey, there you
And this
are.
is the An Abba, or Aber, An Abba. It's only one B, so it's not the same as the Swedish band.
Right.
Um, and it is a Canadian island peated single malt whiskey.
There you
And it
go.
is, the smaller writing here says, it's Kentucky bourbon, Spanish Oloroso, Portuguese red wine, Spanish Pedro Jimenez, and Virgin American casks. Yeah, the cask, I like that it's the master. Oh, actually, I just misread this. Read it as Master Whiskey. It says Master Whiskey Maker. I read it as Master Cask Master. I'm the Master Cask Master, not just a normal Cask Master, the Master one.
The master one. Yeah. Well, is it so happen? So last year, I had some, I can't remember if it was Canadian Club or one of the larger brands.
Yeah.
But I've since drunk all that. So the only Canadian whiskey that I have right now, as well, happens to be Macaloni's. So I have their Glenroy Island single malt, which I think is kind of fitting because we've talked a lot about, sort of what's known as the standard Canadian whiskey, which is mostly like
Yeah.
the blended Canadian whiskey. And we just so happen to both have the Canadian single malt whiskey, and that's one of the kind of like interesting things about Canadian whiskey law is that it's all just Canadian whiskey. They don't have these separations like in Scotland and in America for like different categories
Yeah.
of whiskey. But obviously, Canada makes different types of whiskey. And so, this Canadian single malt is 46% ABV.
Yep, same here.
It is unpeated. So ppm scale is 0. I'm assuming that means unpeated.
Mine's got 15.
Yeah, well, there you go. And this was carefully crafted in premium Kentucky bourbon, recharred red wine, and sherry casks. So, ooh la la.
I think if we're playing top trumps, that means that I get to keep your bottle of whiskey as well. Because I have a higher. No
Yeah,
age
and
statement on both, though, I think.
no age statement. And this was, this comes from Victoria,
Yeah.
in Canada.
And you can visit them for tours and tastings.
Ooh, ooh la la. Yeah.
So,
So, I'm pretty sure that this company got in a bit of a turf war with the Scottish Whisky Association at some point,
allegedly.
allegedly. Um, I think they had to change labels maybe at some point because
There is a
there
slight
was
sort of Caledonian feel to it anyway, I
right,
would say.
yeah, yeah,
You may interpret that as that. I might let me put it let me be clear.
right,
One may interpret it
right,
um, as that, but it does pretty clearly say Canadian Island Swedish
right,
single malt on the side of it. You can see that. So
right,
um,
yeah. I think maybe where they might have gotten themselves into a little bit of hot water is that they allegedly is that they also blend and bottle Scotch whiskey.
ah
So as like not under the same brand name per se, but in virtually the same bottle shape. Um, so I think you could say there might have allegedly been some consumer confusion potentially, but that being said, what we have is very clearly labeled as Canadian whiskey,
yeah,
and so I think that's kind of an exciting thing. We've talked about this separately that international single malt as a category is really spreading across the globe.
yeah,
It's no longer just Scotch. We have American single malt, we have Indian single malt, and Australian. And I think what we have here is a really good example of single malt coming out of Canada.
yeah. I mean, I think many of these single malts that are coming from not coming from Scotland, they at least a lot of some of the early ones seem to emulate or be in that style because I guess that when people
Right.
see single malt, that's what they think of. But I know
Yeah.
certainly in the US, some are more Scotch-like, and then some are really they are marching to the beat of their own.
Oh yes.
their own drum.
Yeah.
I think an American single malt might be an interesting thing um, to cover and maybe talk about some of those things at some point on another
Yeah.
occasion. But I think I'm trying to think how much. As I said, my experience of Canadian whiskey is limited, relatively. I have had some malts before. I think previously we were talking about there was like a I can't think of it. I think it was a Canadian Club malt, or was it a Crown Royal malt? I can't remember now. I think it might have been Crown Royal. There was a malt
Yeah,
whiskey
I think so.
that I seem to recall there was a particular cask influence on it, and so very much it seemed to be quite driven by the cask influence as opposed to
Right.
really anything else, and it kind of tasted a bit. It was quite Scotch-like. So, in my
Yeah.
personal opinion, I kind of feel the same about the Jack Daniel's single malt. I feel like that is
Right.
it's not the same as obviously it's not the same, but it's it's a close cousin
Right.
to Scotch whiskey or Scotch single malt. I think the Jack Daniels is at least purely in terms of if you were just tasting what was in the glass, not looking at like what the production is, but if you're just tasting what's in the glass,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like close enough that maybe as cousins they should marry. Think of a jingle,
Right. Yeah.
which I think is a bit sad. As I would love to try just a straightforward, like something like the Jack Daniels, like this, a straightforward, which just hasn't had a cherry barrel and all this. Just like
Oh yeah, yeah.
embrace what you're doing. Don't look at what other people are doing.
Right. Right. I
But
mean, that's part
this
of
is repeated, right? So obviously something that is very closely associated with the Caledonian way.
right. Right. I mean, in general, like I would say a lot of American whiskey in the last decade has really adopted a bunch of the practices from Scotland in terms of all of the different finishing barrels and
Yeah,
that sort of thing. So that sort of makes sense that Jack Daniels would take on that trend. But that aside, I think it's interesting. I'm curious what you think about the whiskey in your glass. Do you have a sense of its age?
it's a tricky one. It has a pleasant mellowness to it. So, my guessing is that it would be, it's at least hitting that 3-year-old. I mean, if I was guessing, I'd say like
Right.
5 to 6, maybe, but I may be
Yeah.
well off.
Yeah.
It's 46%, but that would be kind of that sort of, it would be that sort of thing. Depending on like if you were looking at it like in somewhere where you have more of Anglo climate, whether it be English or whether it's Scotland, wherever,
Yeah.
then maybe you might be looking at something older, closer to sort of 8 to 10 years. But I don't think it's much beyond that.
Yeah.
But it has, there is a freshness to it. There's a slightly sort of cedary pencil lead thing in a pleasant way, and the smoke is very well integrated. So to me, I kind of look at it and go, I mean, I don't know what the price is, but if I was buying it, I'd look at the price and go, well, does the whiskey kind of reflect what I want from that? And if it does, then brilliant,
Yeah.
Like Baller, another single. No, Baller's is that a single? It is a single one, isn't it?
Yep.
From George. No idea what the age is in that. Don't really care.
Right.
It's $60. It tastes fantastic. I don't really care what the
Right.
age statement is. They could adjust it, and as long as it largely tasted the same, whether it was 5 years or 8 years, I wouldn't really mind. So we see quite a lot of that in bourbon, and the bourbon that we speak a lot about, which is Old Grandad, where there is a
Right.
lot of this sort of variation. There's some bits with age and also with the ABVs, and it's really not about one necessarily. It's just where for you is the sweet spot.
Right.
But what about yourself?
So with the unpeated one that I have, it's youthful. It tastes useful to me. It has this. There's a really strong grain note in the aroma, very biscuity, which I actually kind of like. It's not the grain hasn't completely been overtaken by the casks. In that way, it reminds me a little bit of the Paul John Nirvana, which is a really excellent single malt. But for me, this is one of the reasons why I selected this bottle, because I had a little taste preview of it, and I like that character. So it's definitely well integrated. There's obviously it's hit the minimum age requirement that it needs to be, but to me, you taste it as a single malt. Like that malt character comes through, and you get notes, especially on the aroma. You get hints of the sherry for sure. It's there, but it's not like overpowering in any way. And so, for me, I really enjoy it. I think this is a really fun malt whiskey that has a bit of youthfulness to it. It's not hot at all. It's got a nice warmth to the spirit. So yeah, I think it's really nice.
Yeah.
And my guess is probably in that less than 6-year-old range.
Yeah.
But it's still really good. And I think that's one of the great things that you can get from trying these international single malts outside of Scotland, is that not as many of them are wedded to age statements as Scotch has become. And so now you can really interesting whiskeys to try. So
I talked about the cask. You got bourbon, Spanish Oloroso, you got the red wine, you got Pedro Jimenez, you got the Virgin Oak, and then you got the peated element. So you got like 5 or 6 or more different things going on here. You're never going to be able to taste all of them. Right. That's not really the point. The point is you use these like colours on a palette, and that's what's worked really well. So that Oloroso might bring out. You might not be able to necessarily taste it on its own, but it might bring out some other aspect or help to stop it from running away and being too smoky and peaty or whatever the thing is. I think that's something that's been that they've done really well. But we are seeing a lot more people talking about cask finishes and stuff. But also, in some ways, that's just cask management. It's about managing what the flavour of the whiskey is, and you use it
right
whether it's an X wine cask or an X this or X that, you're using that partly just to manage what the final flavour is. So.
Yeah. And I think with this one in particular, I would say it's less of a finish and more of like these are the barrels that they're using to age in and then blending from. That would be my guess, rather than taking some sort of whiskey aged in ex bourbon.
Yeah, I think
right, moving. And that in of itself fits with like the Canadian sort of style of maturation, right? They tend to do more of the cask management, where a specific whiskey goes into a specific barrel, ages for its period, and then then they bring it all together into a final blend to make the particular bottling. I think that's one of the things that's kind of fun about Canadian whiskey is they, whether it's a single malt or a proper blended Canadian whiskey, a lot of effort and attention has gone into blending the various liquids to make the final product.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. So, I'll move on to something else, which is quite the departure. We're going to try out a cocktail, and this is a cocktail called Canadian Blackberry Fix, and it's based off of the gin fix, which is an old Jerry Thomas recipe.
Oh.
But it's kind of the stepping stone between that, the gin fix, which is gin, lemon juice, and sugar syrup, and the bramble.
Oh.
So,
okay.
I have in my shaker here some whiskey. I've got Canadian Club in here because I wanted one of these blends that's for mixing, with some lemon juice and some sugar syrup. Give that a little shake. Let's start shaking this beforehand. I've got a glass here, tumbler, which is full of crushed ice. And then we've got the ingredient that makes a bramble, not Chambord. Chambord has no place in a bramble. Not many things I feel really strongly about, but keep your Chambord away from the bramble. Bramble is
I can tell you're very passionate about this.
English nickname for the blackberry. So it needs to be creme de mure. You can't be having raspberries in there. It needs to be creme de mure. Just the blackberry liqueur, basically. No to Chambord. Right. Lovely bottle. Right. Lovely history with forbidden fruit. But
yes.
Get out of my bramble. Right, I ain't gonna shake it enough.
Yeah.
So I've got my glass filled with crushed ice. I'm gonna pour over. So that's like a gin fix rest. Oh, sorry, it's a Canadian whiskey, or basically a bit like a Canadian whiskey sour. That's basically what I've shaken up there. And then I've got my creme de mure. This is Monin's one. And then you just, because you've got the ice in there, you just pour it very slowly and kind of layer it on the top there. Well, that's kind of mixed a bit, but you get an idea there.
Yeah.
And usually you serve it with straws, but I haven't got any straws with me, so I'll just filter the ice out with my tea. But there you go. That's a Canadian Blackberry Fix.
There you go.
So bright, fresh, refreshing, and then with that jamminess that comes through from the blackberry. And of course you can make it as sweet or as sour as you like. You've got your choice there. But yeah, Canadian Blackberry Fix.
Cheers. All right. Well, yeah, there you go. Well, so once again, join us in celebrating Canadian Whiskey Week, January 11th through the 18th. Find your favorite bottle or maybe a new bottle of Canadian whiskey and give it a try.
And post and use the hashtag CADWhiskey.
Oh, yes, definitely. All right.
Until next time.
Next time, David. Cheers.